introduce briefly to you. Anis Ahmad is a Pakistani social scientist, an educationist and professor of Islam. He is recipient of award by Higher Education Commission of Pakistan. He was awarded fellowship by the University Science Malaysia, also earned meritorious professorship at IIUI, that is International Islamic University, Islamabad. He was the first Dean of Faculty of Usuluddin and Faculty of Social Sciences at the IIU Islamabad. As first Vice President of IIU Islamabad, he visualized and founded the Dawa Academy also. He was the first Dean of Faculty of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences of the IIU Malaysia. He is currently the Vice Chancellor of Rifa International University, Pakistan. I will now request Dr. Anis Ahmad to speak on today's topic, which is the nature and essence of secular thought and culture.
Jazakallahu khairan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khatim al-anbiya. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. The topic, as you heard, is the nature and essence of secular thought and culture. Secular thought can be defined as a system of thought based on dualistic vision of life and worldview. It bifurcates life and reality in religion, religious and secular, sacred and profane. Secular thought, culture and civilization is founded on local indigenous traditions and concepts, or what we call social constructs. All human thought is based on knowledge acquired through senses, intuition, speculation, personal experience, or our sense experience, which is associated with our perceptions of objects. These are based on earlier sense experiences. Reminiscence plays an important role in our knowledge of things. With this opening statement, let me share with you that when we talk about secular thought and culture, then we are dealing with those social constructs, those ideas which are generated in a given society and time. For example, Topeka culture. Topeka culture means a tribe in Africa which has certain ways of living, ways of dealing with people, ways of worshipping, ways of understanding each other in society. Now, this Topeka culture definitely may have relevance with Topeka tribe, but it cannot be relevant for people somewhere in Nebraska or somewhere in Toronto or somewhere in Brisbane. Unfortunately, Western thought and culture, which emerged in Greek thought, which was for some time abandoned, then revived in the name of Renaissance and reconstruction, and therefore the same thought has continued, which was rooted, which was a result of speculation, personal experience, and empirical reality and observation of a group of people who lived in Greek, and therefore it is essentially a culture which is confined to an area, though globally, when we talk about philosophy, philosophy means what Greek thought. When we say aesthetics, it means what Greek thought. When we say God, then it is Greek gods, which evolve ultimately into so-called Western concepts of God. Therefore, in my opening statement, I say that the human thought and culture is essentially a culture which has its roots in local society and culture. Then what do we mean by human thought? Human thought understanding is defined by one single word, and that is philosophy. Again, the word philosophy has its origin in Greek, philos and sophia. Philos means love of, and sophia means wisdom. The term was used for the first time by Pythagoras in 570-500 BC. And what he meant by that was that he tried to understand what kind of people and societies exist. Therefore, he thought there are three kinds of people: those who love pleasure, second, those who love with activity, and those who love wisdom. And definitely, those who love wisdom were supposed to be the highest kind of people. The purpose of philosophical thought, and consequently the culture of knowledge in Greek, was, as Socrates and Plato and Aristotle visualized. Therefore, for Socrates, seeking self-knowledge and conceptual clarity, that we understand how concepts are. For Plato, discovery of reality and absolute truth. For Aristotle, origination in wonder, yet coming up with a disciplined understanding of nature, of human being, and what is the origin of everything, first principles. The same was defined as theology. Therefore, when we talk about origin of thought in human thought or Western thought, then it refers to both the process of mental activity and its fruit, use of logic, use of reason, use of scientific approach, and at the same time what comes out as a result. That was the meaning of thought in the historical sense, originating in Greek. People thought that this internal dialogue, intellectual dialogue, where we try to understand what's the nature of a thing and what is originally a thing, this is essentially a philosophical question. Some thought it's a theological question. Some thought it's a natural question. And therefore, various schools of thought emerged. But the basic problem for them was metaphysical as well as epistemological, which means dealing with what is the nature of knowledge. Having said that, when we look into further details, we find that this thinking of scholars led to certain schools of thought. Those who considered matter as reality, that everything originates in its material existence, they became the school of materialism. And therefore we find that among 18th, 19th century thought, Friedrich Engels, Karl Marx, and before that Hegel, all those persons who were concerned about finding out what is the original basis of human existence, they came up with the idea of matter as ultimate reality. Whatever Hegel thought as ideas became material with Friedrich Engels and Karl Marx. And they came up with the idea of this matter conflicts, this matter in the form of society, where you have people who are well-placed, people who are deprived. A conflict takes place, and ultimately, as a result of this thesis, antithesis, this thesis come into existence, and that keeps on going for a long time. Those who thought that purpose of life is essentially pleasure, enjoyment, that may by way of nice cuisine, satay, and beautiful food, or it could be by way of human relations uh, in terms of sexual pleasure. It could be in terms of enjoying power and so on and so forth. For them, the hedonist school was originated and introduced by Epicurus, and the purpose was that human life is to be understood as seeking pleasure and happiness, and everything ultimately ends up at that point. So if I'm studying in a school, if I'm working in an organization, if I'm getting married, if I am writing a novel or a story, then everything boils down to one single aspect, that I feel pleasure in doing that. With all these schools of thought, gradually the Western or secular thought came up with the idea that there is an evolution of human thought. And this evolution has taken place in the form of those concepts and ideas which were given by philosophers and theologians. Therefore, Aristotle and Plato and Socrates, all these were persons who gave speculative ideas. And similarly, theologians were persons who gave ideas where theos, where the concept of God existed. But then a second phase came, and that was of development of a metaphysical approach denying physical phenomena. This metaphysical approach was further challenged by an approach of looking into things from a scientific or empirical perspective. And that became the school of positivism of Auguste Comte, who came up with the idea that now we are living in age of scientism, age of scientific development, in which both philosophy, theology, and metaphysical solutions are no more relevant. And that became the most popular trend and culture. Culture, therefore, became a matter of looking into all these issues from a purely manifest aspect. When you talk about pleasure as object of life, then it means in the township, in the society, people talk about nice dress, people talk about nice perfumes, people talk about nice food, people talk about enjoyment, entertainment, and that becomes the culture. Today we find this materialism has led to a culture where we have pleasure and particularly gender exploitation through culture. Anyhow, these schools of thought, particularly empiricism, which said that everything is to be empirically experienced, and therefore whatever we experience empirically is true and genuine, has become the major trend that has given birth to age of technology, where we think that every problem can be solved by technology. Developing countries are told the more technologically advanced you are, the more strong you will be. Therefore, eliminate and disregard aspects that relate with civilization, with culture, with manners, but try to focus on how IT, how technology, how the new solutions which are based on technological advancement can resolve issues. If you have economic problem, then have high tech, and that will solve your problem. High tech ultimately further creates unemployment, because what was done by 20 people is done by one machine, a small machine. So there's a vicious circle, but the dominant trend has been that technology becomes solution for everything. When technology and empiricism takes over, then it leads to marginalization, reduction of ethical and moral values, and they become very much relative. They become very much individual. Empiricism and this individualism have led to a society where every individual thinks whatever he or she believes is true and all else is wrong. This narcissism, self-centered approach has become the hallmark of modern culture, which is based on secularity. Therefore, I said in the beginning that we will be discussing today essentially what is the nature and essence of secular culture, which is individualism, which is pleasure seeking, which is materialism, which is ethical relativism. At the same time, the god of rationalism, that whatever is rationally satisfactory to me, whatever I think is rational, is acceptable and should be accepted by others as well. Therefore, a nation can rationalize use of daisy cutters and B-52 to go and shell and destroy hundreds of hospitals, schools, places of worship in Iraq, in Afghanistan, anywhere, in the name of so-called preemptive strike, that before the so-called fictitious enemy could strike, we have stricken the enemy first. Rationalization. Human reason, particularly individual reason, becomes deciding factor, and that is a hallmark of culture which is based on secularity, which accepts only reason, experience, pleasure, and ethical relativism. All these lead to what is summarized by one single word. The single word is secularity. Secularity means when we believe in a divide in life. Therefore, a culture that divides life is secular culture. If a culture says that early morning, half an hour is for creator, so I should rise up early morning and go to a place of worship and make my worship there. But when I come out of it, I change my dress which I use for worship. After changing that dress, I should act as the dress demands. The dress is designed for a chief executive officer of a multinational corporation. That means this person is now going to wear a gray trouser, a blue jacket, a red tie, and a white shirt, and carry a leather briefcase in his hand. And if the person happens to be a lady, a slim briefcase with a trouser and jacket, and forget about what you were using when you were making your worship in the morning. You may be a Muslim, you may be a Christian, you may be a Buddhist, you may be a Zoroastrian, it makes no difference. Therefore, secularity does not accept other than dualism. This duality must exist. This penetrates into the mind and soul of the person. Mind thinks in terms of these two aspects. How can I please my creator if I'm a Hindu, a Christian, a Sikh, a Buddhist, a Muslim? And at the same time, how can I please my boss in office to get promotion? Two worlds in which the person travels. And that applies even on those who think that they are Islamic scholars. They think this is a matter of fiqh, this is a matter of global economy. So fiqh may say something, global economy is something different. Therefore, to Islamize global economy, let me put a stamp on it with halal and do it. Essentially, this division is what is meant by secularity, and therefore a culture where you have these manifestations. When the time for the birthday of Prophet comes, then a series of lectures, illuminations, distribution of sweets. But when the time for Christmas comes, then the industry should be revived and all new inventions in the name of Christmas should be created and they should be sold. So you make money, become millionaire. This division in mind, in thought, in feelings, in culture is what is we call secularism. And consequently, the impact of this secularity or empiricism is that the whole life cycle is transformed. The person who is very humble and polite in his home, when he is in his factory as manager, as chief executive, then he is brutal on the workers. He wants to extract last drop of their blood to become a capitalist entrepreneur. Those principles of morality and piety and politeness are gone. But when he's back again, or when he's back in a place of worship, then he is humbling down. His voice is very mellow. He is not using a single harsh word. These two approaches and two ways of living are what is meant by secular culture and secular thought. Therefore, if you want to have economic development, then you must use MIT model, you must use French model, you must use a German model, otherwise you are prehistoric. But when you want to revive spirituality, then you go to your religious tradition, maybe Guru Nanak, maybe Buddha, maybe Krishna, maybe what Islam provided. This divide is essentially a cultural divide. This divide is epistemic divide. This divide is historic divide where things have been separated completely. So the impact of this culture is development of bureaucracy, development of entrepreneurial culture, development of tolerance for those who talk about religious rituals. Secularity never objects on increasing the number of churches, synagogues, temples, and mosques in a city, but feels very uncomfortable when the bishop of Christian denomination or a rabbi or a Muslim imam, they come up and say that why are you using these tools of exploitation of economy? Why don't you bring a system which is equitable, fair? They say, no, it's not your problem. You go to your temple and give a sermon there. It's our job. We decide market mechanism. So long this mindset exists, two cultures live side by side. Therefore, dress for prayer, dress for office, mannerism for masjid, mannerism for office, the behavior in industrial unit, everything is subject to these two streams of life, two streams of understanding, and automatically individual liberty and freedom comes in, and that has its own place. Even you will find in Muslim society people who claim that it is their body, it is their time, it is their personal choice in every matter, and other principles make no difference. Therefore, the impact of this divide is in every area. In the political realm, it is said that unless you have secular Western democracy, you are a backward country. In society, it is said, unless you believe in liberty of gender relations, you are a backward person. Unless you have gender equality, not equity, not justice, but equality, numerical approach, you are a backward country. Unless in your culture, you allow all kind of immorality, you are a backward people. Culture, therefore, becomes essentially a manifestation of this secular mindset. The first victim of that is ethics and morality. The new gods of culture, political power, economic power, give no importance to what are human rights, what is love, what is fairness, what is humbleness, what is charity, what is giving due to the people. All these concepts are sacrificed at the altar of material progress, individualism, individual pleasure, individual power, and particularly living in a world of secularity and not trying to have a unified concept of life. In my discussion about Tawheed, I said very clearly that Tawheed eliminates all this dualism from life and brings a unity in life, unity in soul and mind and body, unity in terms of one and only creator, unity in terms of one and same principle in universe, unity in terms of how humanity is to be treated with one single ethical standard. Therefore, when we talk about secular thought and culture, then we are talking about the dominant civilization of today, which has its roots essentially in Greek thought, in European thought. And for all that, I have used secular culture and thought, because this word secular covers all those aspects which we have referred to in this very brief discussion, including ethical relativism, including the empiricist approach, and so on and so forth. But added to it is another dimension, and that is the secular culture also claims that it should be a global phenomenon. The term used for that by critics is Eurocentrism, that it is European culture which thinks that it has reached the highest level of development and refinement, and therefore, unless the so-called Asians, Africans, people who are not developed, Central Asians, Southeast Asians, because they still believe in some ethical moral principles, unless they accept and digest European values and culture, which is secular, they are not in modern age. So Eurocentrism and globalization comes up and then makes this culture a cultural claim that whatever is being done in the European continent and in America or in the secular world is to be taken as ideal. The counter ideology that can provide a more appropriate, more rational, more ethical answer is what Islamic thought and culture provides. My today's focus was essentially on secular thought and culture. I do not intend to discuss what is Islamic culture and thought. We'll be, inshallah, finding out later on about it. But I just wanted to provide you a background in which my first discourse on Tawheed should be understood. The fact of the matter is, in my scheme of thought, This was supposed to be the first discussion, and second was supposed to be Tawheed, but for some reason we discussed Tawheed earlier, and now we are discussing what should have been discussed before, talking about the benefits and beauty of Tawheed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has provided us. I will not take much time. I'll just conclude my discussion on one single statement, that the age in which we are living is age of technology, and technology considers that secular answers can resolve intellectual, social, cultural, political issues. Therefore, secular democracy, therefore, scientism, therefore, a culture which is based on just material needs, all these aspects need to be indoctrinated through education, through media, through social media, and consequently, a global transformation of humanity takes place where the modernity and westernization becomes one and same. And whenever we talk about modernity, we consciously or unconsciously are endorsing this whole worldview of secularity. Unfortunately, many Muslims, including those who talk about fiqh and seerah, they do not realize what they are talking about. If seerah is only for Rabiul Awwal and the whole year is for secular activities, now we are not talking about Tawheed. Then we're talking about living in two worlds, a world of piety and purity in one month of Ramadan, Rabiul Awwal, and so on and so forth, Zil-Hijjah, and other time is for secular activity, where you act like a vicious capitalist. So secular culture, secular thought has dominated, and it is time for Muslim intellectuals to understand and try to liberate themselves from this secular approach and analyze human condition, try to understand what could be more suitable for the prosperity, peace, and justice for the humanity. May Allah bless you all. Wa akhiru rabbil alameen. Any questions?
Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Anis. We have got our first question. In your opinion, which Muslim country is leading the discourse and institutionalizing away from secular thought with the social justice and without oppressing and alienating their people, but rather the human is the center for the wholesome existence? So which country is
Jazakallah
doing that?
for your question. I don't want to frustrate you, but let me say that our approach of finding solution or problems based on nations, territories, or regions is not a very appropriate approach. Wherever in the world, even in the non-Muslim world, if there are some people who are talking about sense, ethics, and morality, then we should welcome those ideas. Your specific question relates with, in Muslim world, which country has these prospects? Well, if you look into history of Muslim countries for past 50 years, you will find that since 1950s, there have been efforts, organized efforts by people to translate that dream and bring social justice, bring fairness, bring ethical values. The creation of Pakistan in 1947 was essentially for that purpose. The slogan was, what is the meaning of Pakistan? The answer was, La ilaha illallah. This was the slogan for the whole Pakistan movement. What was the slogan in 50s in Egypt? Allah is our Rabb, Rasul is our Qaid, and Islam is our way of life. What was the slogan in Tunis? What was happening in Tahrir Square some time back in our own lifetime? in all these events, you find that essentially the Muslim youth globally has been convinced that Islamic ethical moral solution of social justice is the only system that can resolve issues. But we will discuss it, inshallah, around the end of this series in more detail and try to find out what are the hurdles and how those could be resolved. Right now, I can only say that none of the Muslim countries ruled by the neo-colonialists, who are stooges made by colonial powers, are prepared to accept this ideology. They want to evade Islamic solution by even using some slogans. Nevertheless, I'm extremely hopeful that global Muslim awakening that has taken place in every country, east or west, makes no difference. It's not just Muslim countries, it's same in European, American continents and Africa and elsewhere. That is the silver lining, and I am sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bless their efforts.
Our next question is from Septri Vidianu. Why the Western thought and culture became secular? Didn't they have a religion?
Yeah, very good question. The fact of the matter is, religion was defined from day one in the non-Muslim environment as a method of rituals, ceremonies, offerings, sacrifices, and certain festivals. Therefore, if those festivals were held, organized, carnivals were done, then they thought they are doing something religious. The same happened in the so-called less developed religions by the Western scholars. These are Western scholars who call them less developed religions, like in Africa. If you study African religion, you will find that their dances, their painting of their bodies and costumes, all those reflect certain religious rituals and ceremonies. So those things were called religion. And since the mindset was that when you are painting your body, beating drum and making a dance, then souls of ancestors are around you and you are doing something religious. But when that is over and you are back in marketplace, then you are no more remembering souls of your elders, but you only want to have benefit, economic benefit. So existence of secular mindset was not only confined in Europe, but even other countries. In Europe, the faith of people, mainly Christianity, from day one said, give to Caesar what belongs to him and to Jesus what belongs to him. Therefore, Christianity itself from day one was convinced of this duality. Islam from day one said, there is no ilah but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the basic difference between Islam and so many world religions which claim they believe in one God, but while they believe in one God on a specific day and time, they concurrently believe in many gods: God of nationalism, God of language, God of color, God of native culture and civilization, and all that conflicts with Islamic understanding of Tawheed or oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Next question from Nuruddin. I want to know more about the idea of feminism and the LGBT movement, which was built on the idea of Western dualism, including the implications and solutions that must be taken by Muslims to overcome the problem of dualism in relations between women and men.
The idea of feminism is essentially a reactionary movement which came into light in Europe in 19th century and developed in 20th century. The idea was that women folk have been oppressed, they have not been treated equally, and now it is their age of women. Therefore, there should be a liberation of women, and they should be participating shoulder to shoulder in all aspects of life. So you find the media, particularly Time magazine, Newsweek, and even earlier Life, these magazines coming up with the idea of who are the 10 top female business executives or social workers and so on and so forth, in order to encourage the movement. The movement developed not only in terms of rights in political life, economic life, and social life, but it entered in a phase where they said that we as individuals are independent and not dependent on any society or any family. They rebelled against both. Rebelled against family, that family is just a matter of mutual agreement, not a contract. And society, the society cannot tell us how to dress, how to live, and how to live a life. If I want to live without marriage, with a friend, it is my choice. This concept of liberation reached that limit in 20th and 21st century, which led to ultimately a movement of gender diversity, which means that if someone claims that he wants or she wants to live with same gender and have even relations with same gender, it is their personal choice and liberty. No religion, no culture, no society, no family has a right to intervene. This has been the main concern of the so-called LGBT as well as the liberation movement. Now, why these are encouraged? Because these movements provide commercial benefit to a large number of enterprises. In their name, they get vote in parliament, in senate, in congress. In their name, they come up with products that this is unisex dress, this is unisex perfume, this is unisex cosmetics, this is unisex so and so. Everything is commercialized in order to keep this movement alive. So it's a alliance of the capitalist entrepreneurial society and new trends that are in the West. They want to export these trends through culture, through media, through aid given through NGOs to so-called developing countries. NGOs, which are globally working, have very clear agenda. The so-called MGDs include this aspect, which is imposed on Muslim, non-Muslim countries of the world. These 17 goals of sustainable development and progress include gender diversity, which is a euphemism, a word used for allow the people who want to live with same gender and allow the people who want to have immorality publicly, it's their right. All these are globally done, and it's our responsibility to understand what is behind, and then not only that, but counter that with a healthy, positive, creative thinking that Islam has provided.
Next question is from Ashfaq Rahman. Is cosmopolitanism valid in Islam? Is it different from secularism?
Islam from day one claimed to be a universal faith for humanity. It never claimed to have authority on people of the world. It came as a invitation and message for them, and not a dictatorial ideology for them. Therefore, the Quran addresses whole of mankind, invites them to live a conscious, responsible, ethical living. So they are observing ethical principles not only in Australia, but also in America and Africa and in Asian countries. Same. Islamic principles are universal, not racial, not based on colonization. while colonialists, wherever they went, they took with them their values and imposed on people, including their language. So when they came to Indonesia, they said you should have Dutch as your second language. When they went to Philippines, they said Spanish should be your language. When they came to Malaysia, Pakistan, and many other parts of the world, they said you must talk in English. Only then you are a civilized person. So the Islamic approach is not of imposing Arabic, but Islamizing Arabs. Islam came to Islamize Arabs, not to Arabize the people. Arabization was a matter of this hegemony. Islam is not for hegemony. Islam is for liberation of mankind from all these concepts in order to serve their creator in the most natural and rational way as it has been given in the Quran and Sunnah.
Next question is from Thot Hamim. What is your opinion about secularism in Turkey that their citizens believed in? It developed the new life with the emergence of democracy.
What was done in 1924 by Mustafa Kemal was rejected by the people in 2000 when they brought a rule in their country which claimed from day one that they want to have Islamic aspects highlighted. Due to constitution of the country, even those people who wanted to bring Islamic system could not change the constitutional nature of the country because constitution says it's a secular country. They could not do it, but they tried their best to bring Islamic norms and values, family culture, the practice of Islamic ibadat, economic system to be gradually changed. So you find Islamic banks emerging, you find Islamic institutions in education coming up. Otherwise, till 1958, no one could make azan in Arabic in Turkey. It was in Adnan Menderes' time that first time the azan was allowed to be made in Arabic from minarets. That's what the meaning of secularism. So Turkish people themselves rejected what was given to them by the father of the nation. And today, I believe, majority of Turkey very clearly is convinced that that was not the golden age, although the father of Turkish nation fought very bravely against colonialist powers, but his introduction of secularism has been rejected by every single person in Turkey. I cannot hear you.
Yeah, next question is from Atiya Musa. It is a fact that many Muslim countries now are lacking in many aspects. People keep blaming on the religion that makes us like that. How can we deny that?
Well, I don't believe in just denying. I believe in proving by our actions positively. And if you young people, if you excel in knowledge, if you excel in akhlaq and mannerism and adab, if you excel in innovation and creativity, if you excel in mastering the thought of others as well as Islamic thought, because Islam never said just read the Quran, but it said you have to develop yourselves fully in order to respond to what the enemy is saying, whatever kufr and shirk is saying. So unless you know what is shirk, what is kufr, how can you come up with your rational argument? Therefore, knowing more and more about what is secularity, what is capitalism, what is socialism, what is Marxism, what is anarchism, and so on and so forth, knowing all those along with full mastery over the Quran and Sunnah and its ulum, that's what is to be done. And I'm sure that all those who are trying to attend these online discourses are definitely persons who have been searching for that kind of venue, and IIIT has provided that kind of venue to them. And I am sure that if we continue this struggle intellectually, morally, and ethically, then we should be able to provide a different image of Islamic society, which is developed, progressive, and advanced. Even today, Pakistan is a nuclear power. Even today, many Muslim countries are excelling over any other countries of the world in their productivity. The biggest resources of oil are in Muslim countries. But unfortunately, their mind is enslaved. They are not able to understand their own selves. And therefore, what I've been saying from the beginning is that we must liberate ourselves from this Western or secular thought and go forward with our own Islamic sources.
Next question is from Faisal Muhammad. Would adopting secular thought in certain realms, such as work, be permissible or even necessary for a Muslim to avoid a clash of civilization or thoughts, especially in Muslim minority country, without compromising on our main Islamic values? That is.
Well, as a student of history, I do not agree with the idea of minority Muslim society or majority Muslim society. I believe that Islam provides one individual that power which can shake the whole world. Therefore, it's not a numerical power, it's power of faith, power of conviction, power of superiority of culture. Nevertheless, as you said, that in situations where Muslims are in less number, should they adopt secularity? I am sure that secularity never says that you leave your individual way of doing things. On the other hand, it stands for individual liberty. So a person should come forward and say, it's my individual liberty and freedom to use a scarf in public space. And that was done by our daughters and sisters in France, in Germany, and elsewhere. But the tyranny is that same culture which claims secularity, which wants to secularize others, could not accept other than their own philosophy. Therefore, in my view, secularism is the greatest fundamentalist ideology of the world. It's fundamentalist because it wants itself to be dominated everywhere, even in their own countries. They have not allowed others same liberty which they claim in the name of secularity. So there's a conflict in their own culture, not civilization. That's a separate issue. And perhaps sometime later, we can go in more detail about Sam Huntington and what he says and how to respond to it.
The next question is from Samsor. One of the ways in which secularism can encompass the whole of a Muslim country is via colonization, in which spread of technology and war happens. Do you agree that Muslims have to take the political power to stop the secularism?
You see, Islam does not stop us from transforming social institutions, political institutions, economic institutions. Rather, Islam means bringing Islamic ethical principles in every aspect of life. Therefore, we cannot leave political domain and we cannot say that Islam should be realized, practiced only in masjid or in business, but not in political life. Since the Quran says, "Udkhulu fi silmi kaffa," since the Quran says, this is the complete deen, which has been given to you as a blessing. Since the Quran says, this is a deen that should be realized in society for adl. Therefore, political institutions cannot be left to the political opportunists, but political life, economic life, family life, educational life, all have to be aligned under the Islamic principles given by the Quran and Sunnah.
That will be our last question from Yutsrina Azima. How to deal with people who having a conscious thought of secularism and they are proud to become a part of people who are having secularist ideology. How to
Well,
deal with it?
first and foremost, do not fight with them, but love them. Be kind to them. Let them share your ethical standards and morality. Let them realize that you are not an enemy, but you are a friend. And as a friend, you are concerned about their success in this world and life hereafter. Then try to raise questions that if secularity means living in 2 worlds, 3 worlds, 4 worlds, then what is appropriate for human being? If secularity says that you have a god of nationalism, so my country first and last. You have a god of empiricism, whatever is given by the empirical scientific evidence, ultimate truth. You are you believe in the so-called uniculture of the West, that whatever is given by the Western dress and perfume culture, that should be accepted. Then you have not 3 but 20 gods. So is it appropriate for human beings to serve 20 gods, or to bring all those aspects of life under one single principle of Tawheed? And that will take definitely time. You have to try again and again with a very loving, peaceful dialogue, rational approach, sympathetic approach. And after having done all that, if the person accepts your ideas, thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for your success. If does not, still thank Allah that at least you did your duty, and pray for the person that not now, maybe later, the person may realize what is truth.
Jazakumullah al khair. Alhamdulillah, we had a very nice session, really thoughtful questions from a number of people. We still have so many questions pending, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. And I thank everybody who actively participated in the session. Now I would request Dr. Anis Ahmed to give his concluding remarks, and then after that would request Brother Shahran to close the session.
Well, my dear friends, I'm very much thankful to IIIT for this opportunity. I'm thankful to all of you for being attentive and coming up with very interesting, enlightening questions. I love questions and disagreements all my life. And I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me opportunity to share with you my ideas about the present dilemma of Muslim mind. That dilemma is that we want to come back to Quran and Sunnah, but we are not prepared to sacrifice all those attractions, all those beautiful objects which the so-called technological and secular world has provided us. We want to live in 2 boats at one time, and you cannot travel in 2 boats at one time. We have to pay a price and decide for ourselves. Once we decide that we want to follow only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance and not human thought, not individual experience, not empirical claims of reality, but what the Quran Sunnah has provided, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised that He will shower His blessings from skies, and He will provide blessings deep from the earth and make people successful. So I am sure if we make a rational judgment decision of serving only Allah, then our culture based on Tawheed and our thought based on Tawheed can very easily provide a solution for not only mankind, not only Muslims, but for the whole of mankind.
Thank you so much, Prof. Next week, Prof will be talking about role of the Quran in development of Islamic thought, culture and civilization, critical thinking, scientific development, social, legal, and intellectual contribution. Same time, same day, next week. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see everyone next week, inshallah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalam.